Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, today we're going to be talking about, can you make money self-publishing? And so it's a good time to talk about the self-publishing survey that I'm conducting right now as I'm recording this podcast. I'm finishing it up. It's the last few days that you have to participate in it. I do this survey every other year on the even years, and I usually collect responses from July through November, and then I publish the results in January. So if you do want to participate, you just have to go to my website, HeidiThorne.com, and you're going to see a link for the survey, and you just follow the link to the survey. And I've been using SurveyMonkey, so it's pretty easy for you to participate. And one of the questions, of course, that I'm asking in this survey is about what you've achieved in terms of book sales over the past year and what you forecast for the future. Now, the big question is, can you make money self-publishing? And the answer is yes, you can. But whether you will is a completely different story. Now, as I found in the last self-publishing survey, is that it's a big challenge for a lot of self-published authors to make money. And I guess the question then isn't, can you make money, but can you make enough money from self-publishing to make it worth your while? Now, that is the big question, because even if you sell one book, you have made money from self-publishing. So I don't think that's the real question there. But let's talk about the two major ways that you do make money from self-publishing. First of all, if you're selling direct to customers, that would be revenues. And if you are selling through your self-publishing platform, such as Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, then you're going to be making royalties. And royalties are just a portion of the entire book sales price. So some self-published authors get all upset about that because they think, well, I should be able to get the entire sale, right? But these platforms such as Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing or Lulu or BookBaby or whatever platform you use, they're providing some really valuable services to you. So you definitely have to consider that as part of the payment to them for providing that service to you and your writing business. And I think one of the big things about doing self-publishing and selling direct to customers, that is a huge endeavor. It seems so simple on the outside, but it is a really, really big project. First of all, there's the whole printing thing that you have to deal with. And I do know some self-publishers who do that. They contract with a commercial printer. You're not just going to be able to go to a lot of the quick print shops, because often they don't do what's called perfect bound books, and like a standard paperback, like this. They won't do those. They'll just do like reports or loose leaf type things. They really don't do standard trade paperbacks. So then you have to contract with a commercial printer. And if you don't know what you're doing when you contract with them, you could be spending a ton of money. And then the other thing is, how are you going to handle fulfillment? And fulfillment is where you are shipping and selling the books to your customers. So the shipping portion of it is you have to pay for the packaging, you have to pay for the labor, even if it's just yourself, to pack and ship the books, and then you have to pay for the shipping, and then you have to track all the shipments and handle customer service issues. it's a mess. So you better be really ready for that if you think you want to self-publish and you think you're going to make a whole bunch of money by doing it on your own. You probably won't. And then I do have some authors that I know who want to sell their ebooks on their own. They're not going to sell them through Kindle or Smashwords or any of those ebook platforms because they think they can make more money. And some of them do. And that's okay. Some of them use it as some sort of marketing tool, but I'm just talking right now about actually selling books and ebooks. And so they think, well, I'll just sell it direct to the customers and make a ton more money. Well, a couple of considerations there. First of all, if you're selling direct to customers, what are you going to be selling to them in terms of the physical file, the electronic file, which is still a physical file? You're going to be selling them probably a PDF. Well, that may or may not be what your customers want to read in terms of format. And then you have to worry about the security of your book. It could be easily transferred by email or social media to thousands of people, and then you'll lose out on the sales. So don't be thinking that the ebook route of selling direct to customers is the way out. It isn't. You're much better off considering the ebook platforms such as Kindle Direct Publishing and Smashwords and Lulu and all those others out there that offer you ebook publishing and fulfillment. So it's better. The DIY, just doing it yourself, is extremely expensive. And so you really need to do a profit and loss analysis before you ever try and do it on your own. And one of the other things with self-publishing on your own is that you're going to be responsible for not only income taxes from the book sales that you make, but you're going to have to be responsible for sales taxes too. And that whole sales tax issue, especially online via the internet, is getting much more complicated. So you need to have a chat with your CPA before you ever do do-it-yourself self-publishing without some of these helpers such as Kindle Direct Publishing or those like them. So be informed before you do that. And even if you do use a Kindle Direct Publishing or any of those types of platforms, you should probably also do a cost analysis of your sales, simply because it's not cost-free. It probably cost you something to develop your book. You might have hired editors or proofreaders, that sort of thing. You probably did hire somebody, or you got some sort of help that you need to pay for, and it's a cost to you. And when you do self-publish on Kindle Direct Publishing, if you're in the 70% royalty for your ebooks, let's say just for the ebooks, let's talk about that right now. Just for the ebooks, if you're in that 70% royalty, you'll have to have a file size fee is deducted from that, so you're not going to get the full 70%. So you could get anywhere from 35 to 70% on that. And you do have to consider also, even if you're using one of the platforms and you're not just doing it completely on your own, is that you have costs to run your business, not just those things that are related to your book cost or book development. You have a business when you start selling your book. You're going to have to pay for internet service. You're going to have to pay for a website, probably. All of those costs are costs to you, and they do get deducted from your income from your book. So yes, you can make money from self-publishing, but you need to make enough money, and you need to do definitely a cost and benefit analysis before you jump into self-publishing. Now, the good side, the silver lining of all this self-publishing is that they're long-term investments for you as well. For example, I'm still selling books that I published over 7 years ago, and some of them are my most popular titles too. So you can sell them for a very long time, and you have opportunities down the road. And this is especially for nonfiction, where you can update your book and publish second editions, updated editions, repurposing it into other books. You might be able to do maybe quote books or journals or other things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity in self-publishing, but you need to go into it with your eyes wide open. So I hope I've given you a few things to think about as you begin your self-publishing adventure. And if you found it helpful, I would appreciate it if you would wander over to iTunes and give the Heidi Thorne Show a nice rating and review. And while you're on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you like to listen to podcasts on, definitely subscribe to the show so you can get more tips and insight on self-publishing. And if you would share the show on social media, that would be so appreciated. If you want to see my books or read them, they are available on Amazon. And you just search for my Heidi Thorne author page, and all my books are listed there. And I do have audiobooks, of course, and those are also on Amazon, but they're on iTunes and Audible too. So if you'd like to connect with me and find out more about the services I offer for self-publishing, which would include book editing, you can go to my website at HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking to you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.